The story of Pablo Emilio Escobar Gaviria is one of the most infamous trajectories in criminal history. Here is the detailed breakdown of his family, his rise to power, his eventual death, and the truth behind the famous money-burning story. Welcome to Documentary Time channel. As you know, we make documentaries about iconic people, so make sure you subscribe to keep getting these updates in these topics. Pablo Escobar was born into a large family that lived a modest life in Antioquia, Colombia. Humanidades.com. His father, Abel de Jesus Dari Escobar, he was a humble farmer and cattle herder. His mother was Hermilda de los Dolores Gaviria. She was an elementary school teacher who was well regarded in the local community. Pablo was the third of 7 children. His most famous sibling was his older brother, Roberto Escobar, who served as the accountant for the Medellin cartel and later wrote extensively about their criminal enterprise. While some accounts state the family lived in a severe state of poverty in an adobe hut without running water or electricity, others note they were simply lower middle class by local standards. Escobar's transition from a schoolboy to a multi-billionaire cartel leader didn't happen overnight. He was born on December 1st, 1949, in Rio Negro, Colombia. Escobar grew up in the nearby suburb of Envigado. Though intelligent, he rebelled against authority and dropped out of high school, and later briefly studied political science at a local university before dropping out due to a lack of tuition funds. He started his criminal career as a street hustler. His early crimes included stealing gravestones from cemeteries, sanding down the inscriptions, and reselling them to smugglers, a claim his brother Roberto later disputed, arguing the stones were legally acquired from cemetery owners when clients stopped paying. He quickly graduated to stealing cars, petty scams, and kidnapping local executives for ransom. By the early 1970s, Escobar began smuggling contraband and dealing marijuana. However, he quickly recognized that the massive profit margins lay in a relatively new commodity, cocaine. He established his first smuggling routes into the United States in the mid-1970s. Escobar used a simple strategy to handle obstacles: plata or plomo, which means money or lead. If a police officer, judge, or politician refused to accept a massive cash bribe, they were immediately assassinated. By the 1980s, Escobar co-founded and led the Medellin cartel. He transformed the drug trade from a disorganized, small-scale operation into a corporate-style, global enterprise. At the peak of his power, the cartel was allegedly smuggling up to 15 tons of cocaine per day into the U.S., controlling roughly 80% of the world's cocaine market. The business brought in an estimated $420 million a week, making Escobar the 7th richest man in the world according to Forbes at the time. He bought dozens of luxury homes, fleets of aircraft, and even remote-controlled submarines to transport product. To shield himself from extradition to the U.S., he cultivated a Robin Hood image among the poor of Medellin by building housing developments which was widely regarded as Barrio Pablo Escobar, schools and soccer fields, while simultaneously waging a bloody war against the Colombian government via assassinations, bombings, and narcoterrorism. The legendary story of Escobar burning millions of dollars to keep his family warm is one of the most famous pieces of cartel lore. According to accounts popularized by his son, Sebastian Marroquin, formerly known as Juan Pablo Escobar, the incident occurred while the family was on the run from the authorities, hiding out in a secluded safe house in the cold mountains surrounding Medellin. His young daughter, Manuela, began suffering from hypothermia. With no firewood available, trapped inside, and unable to leave the house to get supplies without risking capture, Escobar allegedly used wads of US dollar bills to start a bonfire. He reportedly burned roughly $2 million in cash to generate enough physical heat to keep his daughter warm and to cook a basic meal for his family. While some critics and biographers debate whether the story was exaggerated for dramatic effect, as it later was in television series like Narcos, it remains a powerful symbol of both his absolute devotion to his daughter and the sheer, absurd volume of cash he had at his disposal. Escobar's violent rule came to an end on December 2nd, 1993, just one day after his 44th birthday. Following his escape from his luxury prison, La Catedral, in 1992, he was relentlessly pursued by a specialized Colombian police force known as the Search Block, aided heavily by U.S. intelligence agencies and a violent vigilante group composed of his enemies called Los Peeps. The authorities finally tracked him down to a middle-class neighborhood in Medellin using radio triangulation technology after Escobar made a fatal mistake, staying on the phone too long with his son. As the Search Block stormed the safe house, Escobar and his bodyguard attempted to escape across the clay-tiled rooftops of the surrounding buildings. A fierce gunfight ensued, and Escobar was hit multiple times. He died on the rooftop from a fatal gunshot wound to the head. To this day, speculation remains over whether the final bullet was fired by a police sniper or if Escobar shot himself to avoid capture, fulfilling his famous motto that he would prefer a grave in Colombia than a jail cell in the United States. Out hundreds of affairs and horrific crimes. All that's interesting, Escobar was ready to eliminate everyone who would interrupt his way. When the Colombian government formed specialized task forces like the Search Block to hunt Escobar down, he declared open war on law enforcement. The Medellin bounties. Escobar started a campaign where he paid cash bounties to local street gangs and youths for every police officer they murdered. The payouts ranged depending on the officer's rank, roughly the equivalent of $1,000 to $3,000 per officer. This bounty system directly resulted in the assassination of an estimated 500 to 600 police officers in Medellin alone. They were shot on their way home, at traffic stops, or even while off-duty, spending time with their families. If you include soldiers, judges, prosecutors, and federal agents killed throughout his entire operations, the number of law enforcement and government personnel assassinated by his cartel reaches into the thousands. Escobar's violence extended far beyond these three instances. His campaign to hold the Colombian state hostage included. In 1989, just days after the Avianca bombing, Escobar detonated a truck loaded with 1,100 pounds of dynamite outside the Administrative Department of Security, DS, headquarters in Bogotá. The blast-level blocks killed 52 people and injured over 1,000 civilians. Escobar ordered the public assassination of major figures who spoke out against him, including presidential candidate Luis Carlos Galán, who shot dead at a rally in 1989, and Justice Minister Rodrigo Lara Bonilla, who gunned down in his car in 1984. To terrorize the public into pressuring the government to ban extradition, the Medellin cartel detonated dozens of indiscriminate. Pablo Escobar remains one of history's most ruthless criminals. Driven by a desire to avoid extradition to the United States and to crush anyone standing in his way, his plata o plomo, silver or lead, policy cost an estimated 4,000 lives. Escobar had made so many horrible things like the bombing of Avianca Flight 203 in 1989, the bombing of Avianca Flight 203 on November 27, 1989, is widely considered one of the most horrific acts of narco-terrorism in history. Escobar's target was Cesar Gaviria Trujillo, a major Colombian presidential candidate who fiercely supported extraditing drug traffickers to the U.S. Escobar's hitmen believed Gaviria was scheduled to be on the flight from Bogotá to Cali. However, due to last-minute security concerns, Gaviria canceled his plans and never boarded the plane. This is how they managed to bomb this plane. A young cartel recruit was tricked into carrying a briefcase bomb onto the Boeing 727, thinking it was a simple recording device. Just 5 minutes after takeoff, the bomb detonated. All 107 people on board died, along with 3 people on the ground killed by falling debris. Escobar murdered 110 innocent people just to target a single man, and failed to kill him. Gaviria went on to win the presidency. In 1976, a 26-year-old Pablo Escobar married Maria Victoria Inau, who was just 15 years old at the time. Escobar had actually met her when she was only 12, groomed her style, using his wealth and charm to manipulate her despite her family's strong disapproval. In her later memoir, it now revealed that Escobar subjected her to immense psychological control, forced her to undergo an illegal and highly dangerous abortion at a young age, and kept her isolated while he carried car bombs in major cities, frequently hitting crowded shopping malls, public squares, and residential neighborhoods. At the height of his power in the late 1980s, Pablo Escobar's Medellin cartel was generating an estimated $420 million a week. He had so much raw paper currency flowing in that managing the physical cash became a logistical nightmare, leading to some of the most mind-boggling financial urban legends in history. Because Escobar couldn't deposit billions of illegal drug dollars into traditional banks, the cartel resorted to hiding cash anywhere they could, in dilapidated warehouses, bricked up inside the walls of safe houses, and buried in farming fields. According to his brother and chief accountant, Roberto Escobar, the cartel had to write off an estimated 10% of their total wealth every single year as spoilage. This 10% loss amounted to roughly $2.1 billion a year. Rats frequently broke into the storage boxes and literally chewed through the paper bills to build nests or feed. What the rats didn't destroy, water damage, mold, and rot rendered completely unusable. To give you an idea of the scale of the operation, Roberto Escobar also noted that the cartel spent approximately $2,500 a month just on rubber bands to hold the massive stacks of bills together. The legend of the $600 million buried stash. The story of the ordinary farmer finding $600 million buried in a field is a fascinating blend of internet viral myth and recent real-world headlines from Colombia. For years, a highly viral story circulated on the internet claiming that a 65-year-old Colombian farmer named Jose Marina Cardelos found $600 million in large blue plastic containers. The story claimed he was digging an irrigation trench for a palm oil plantation when he struck the cash. That specific 2015 story was entirely fake, originating from a well-known satire and spoof website, The Real 2025 Discovery. However, truth mirrored fiction when an astonishingly similar event made international news. An anonymous farmer in the Antioquia region of Colombia, the historical heartland of the Medellin cartel, discovered a massive fortune. The rural worker was digging into the earth to expand his crop area when his tools struck metal. The containers, several large, heavily rusted metal drums buried more than a meter underground. Condition of the cash. Despite the rusted exterior of the drums, the bundles of US dollars inside were found in remarkably perfect condition. Because Escobar and his cartel routinely created coletas, or hidden stashes, across the Colombian countryside, authorities immediately suspected this was a forgotten cartel reserve from the late 1980s or early 1990s. Just like the old legends predicted, the farmer did not get to pocket the money, due to the severe danger of being targeted by modern criminal groups or treasure hunters. The farmer's identity has been kept strictly anonymous for security reasons. The Colombian government took custody of the funds to investigate their exact origins, debating whether to use the money for national social programs or offer the farmer a legal finder's reward. When Pablo Escobar was shot dead on a Medellin rooftop in 1993, his estimated net worth was floating around $30 billion. But because you can't exactly write a mountain of blood-soaked cocaine money into a legal will, that wealth didn't just pass down to his kids. Instead, it was aggressively carved up, stolen, seized, or simply left to rot. The disintegration of the world's largest criminal fortune can be broken down into 5 distinct paths. Firstly was the payout for survivals. Immediately after Escobar's death, his wife, Tata, and his son, Juan Pablo, now Sostel Marroquin, were marked targets. To buy their lives and secure safe passage out of Colombia, they had to sit down with the leaders of the rival Cali cartel and the paramilitary group Los Peeps. The cartels demanded total financial restitution for the costs of the war Escobar had waged against them. Escobar's family handed over every piece of real estate, art collection, vehicle, and bank account they could access. Juan Pablo later stated that the Cali cartel treated the meetings like a corporate restructuring, taking billions in assets. The family was left with essentially nothing compared to the original fortune, fleeing to Argentina under assumed names with just enough money to survive. Secondary was Colombian government seizures. The Colombian government, heavily backed by U.S. intelligence, launched massive asset forfeiture campaigns during and after Escobar's downfall. His properties, like his infamous Hacienda Napoles, a 7,000-acre estate featuring a private zoo, airports, and artificial lakes, were seized. Today, Hacienda Napoles has been converted into a public theme park, complete with the descendants of Escobar's escaped hippos. Millions of dollars found in verified bank accounts, luxury apartments, and storefront businesses used as fronts for money laundering were absorbed into the Colombian state treasury. Thirdly was the coletas, or the buried stash houses. Escobar had far more cash than he could ever clean through legitimate banks. His solution was coletas, plastic-wrapped pallets of cash buried in farming fields, hidden in jungle caves, or bricked up inside the walls of safe houses. According to Roberto Escobar, Pablo's brother and the cartel's chief accountant, they wrote off about 10% of their cash, $2.1 billion, every year because rats ate it, mold rotted it, or water destroyed it. For decades after his death, locals, family members, and treasure hunters searched Colombia for these stashes. Every few years, a headline pops up. In 2020, Escobar's nephew found a plastic bag containing $18 million hidden inside a wall of an apartment he moved into, though much of the cash was severely degraded and unusable. Fourthly was internal cartel betrayals. When the head of the snake was cut off, the accountants, lawyers, frontmen, and mid-level lieutenants who actually held the keys to Escobar's offshore accounts and dummy corporations simply kept the money. Because the funds were structured through complex, anonymous Swiss banking layers, nobody could claim them without exposing themselves to the DEA. Those who knew the account numbers and password phrases either quietly retired on the stolen funds or took the secrets to their graves during the bloody cleanup wars that followed. Fifthly saw burned and wasted away. A staggering amount of Escobar's billions didn't actually survive to be divided. In his final 2 years, Escobar was completely cut off from his primary smuggling operations. He was spending millions of dollars a week just to maintain an army of sicarios, hitmen, by politicians, and outrun the authorities. In one famous anecdote recounted by his son, while the family was hiding out in a cold mountainside safe house, Escobar literally burned. An estimated $2 million in cash ** in a fireplace just to keep his young daughter warm and cook food. The mythical $30 billion mostly evaporated. What wasn't spent funding a war against the state was seized by the government, extorted by rival cartels, pocketed by dirty accountants, or left underground to turn into compost. So we appreciate the efforts you used watching this video. But make sure you subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Bye-bye.